News, not news. A name that you're really high on, Jake, that you brought up for the Bengals a few
Yeah,
times. If
this is
this name is
something.
available at 17, maybe. Do you know? Yeah, either way.
I think I know where you're
But
going.
character concerns
Yeah.
are being brought up for quite a few players, and that's this time of year, of course. You can't tell what's true and what's not. But the Bengals have taken some chances on character concerned guys in the past. The one that's bit them in the ass most recently, unfortunately, is Burton, as we've talked a lot about. But a name that Jacob's been really high on when we've talked about some of the possibilities for the Bengals at number 17, Pearce, James Pearce, one of those names that is on the list, along with Nolan, Walter Nolan, Mike Green, and some others. News or not news that some of these premier names that could be available at 17, talent-wise, you want them. Attitude-wise, do you? Are you concerned about these attitude, character concerns, news or not news?
It's news because I think the Bengals are concerned. I don't care at all. I want good players. I want to take good players wherever they are in the draft. And if that's at 17 with Walter Nolan or James Pearce, I'm over the moon. Even Mike Green. All three names you said there are three guys who are high on my list for the Bengals at pick 17. And I just immediately think that these three guys must be who Howie Roseman wants. I mean, James Pearce Jr. was a coin flip for Abdul Carter coming into draft season or coming into this football season before the draft. And now we've seen him fall down into where we're talking about taking him at 17. And then Daniel Jeremiah on Monday had James Pearce completely out of the first round on his mock draft. That would be insane for an edge rusher who has the body, is going to test out of the gym, and has 3 years of production at Tennessee. In what world does that guy fall out of the first round? The other two, I feel like there's a little bit more reason for concern. Mike Green, already one of the smaller edge rushers in the class. If he has character concerns at a school like Marshall, maybe his talent just overshadowed everything there, and they were forced to play him, and obviously would do some more digging there. Walter Nolan, we already knew about. Walter Nolan was the number one player in the country out of high school, committed to Texas A&M, had some blow-ups with the coaches and donors on the staff about NIL agreements and playing time agreements, and he transferred to Ole Miss. But he had a great year this year. Lane Kiffin said he was an honorary captain for a couple games. The teammates loved him at Ole Miss. They brought in a lot of guys to Ole Miss this year with character concerns who really buttoned it up. So I lean that he might be a little bit reformed, removed from that part of his career. But James Pearce, I couldn't care less. Every report out of Tennessee is that he's the hardest worker, first one in, last one out. All these character concerns, some of them are bubbling up from high school and other things like that off the field. I don't care. Unless I hear it from a Tennessee coach, that's where I'll bring it in. But if they're saying he's first one in, last one out, and he has 3 years of sack production as a dominant edge rusher at Tennessee, I want him on my team.
17 and a half sacks in his last 2 seasons in college. If you have character concerns and you give me 17 and a half sacks, I'm all good. I really am. I'm all good. You know, that might be a controversial thing to say. Have they gone specifics with the, no. So like
It's like the reports are like locker room anger, screaming at teammates, like fights at practice. That all to me very easily could also fall in the category of crazy competitor.
Yeah, wants to win.
And he's a leader. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything that's Jermaine Burton level concern about character. So I'm removing all that stuff. I hope it is a concern for the first 16 people in the draft. I just hope the Bengals don't dwell on that when a guy has 17 sacks in the last 2 seasons.
I know it didn't work with Burton, but there are guys who have had character concerns in the NFL, and they've worked out and they've made great careers, Hall of Fame careers. So I'm not going to get overly worked up about non-specific accusations of character concerns. To me, that's a nothing burger. If he has 17 and a half sacks in 2 years, you bring him home. Now, I will say, if you can get a little value, let's say he goes to the second round. Maybe we'll start making stories.
Yeah.
If you guys want to make stories, we'll wait. Second round.
Yeah, I'm all in on James Pearce in the second round. Oh boy, that'd be crazy.
No, and that's why I just found it interesting that's a name that's brought up with that, just because we've talked in the past. Has Burton scared the Bengals away from being aggressive and taking chances? And that's
something else that goes with this point exactly is, what have we talked about for the last week about the Bengals? Joe Burrow brought it up on Pardon My Take. He said the Eagles are paying everybody. Why don't we just do that? Why are the Eagles able to pay everybody? Because they hit in the draft. How do you get superstars in the draft? You draft great players that fall down the board because there's some character concerns, and you get them to buy into your team and be the player they're supposed to be. They got Jalen Carter at 9. He was supposed to go number 1, and he fell because of character concerns. And that is way more than anything we're talking about with Walter Nolan or James Pearce. So you have to take great players, regardless of what the field concerns are, and you have to be good enough coaches and leaders in the locker room to get them to buy in, because that's how you get value in the middle and late rounds of the draft. If Jermaine Burton worked out and he's that first round value that we're talking about, going into the draft, coming out of the draft last year, then we're not talking nearly as much about how we need to keep T. Higgins. Obviously that didn't work out, but you have to keep trying that, because that's the only way you get value in the later rounds.
Yeah, the other thing too, when you look at the Eagles, they could take chances on guys because they have so much talent around.
Yeah.
That if they take a chance, it doesn't work, you're not out anything. The Bengals, I thought the Burton thing was only – I think the Burton thing hurt them so bad is because that was their option. That was their only option at that time, because at the time a year ago, even at the draft, we're going one more year with T. Higgins. This is the plan. All right, one more year with T. Higgins. Burton's our third. He gets his rookie year in, and then he transitions to the number 2 wide receiver, and then that got the Eagles, if talk about certain guys that don't work out, there's so much depth around it. But again, with a guy like Pearce, if it's attitude problems at practice, luckily you got Zach Taylor, a culture guy, so you're
Yeah,
good.
That's right. Pizza parties.
Yes. So, ping pong tables are back. So they learned their lesson. Don't take that away. I know we're going to be joined by Hudson Keene with Chatterbox Bearcats coming up here in just a few moments, but we'll continue on until we get the green light that he's on and hanging out with us. College basketball, news or not news, Cooper Flagg let it be known that, he might be willing to return for another season at Duke. And of course, you have one side that's saying that's the dumbest thing ever. There's no way in hell he's coming back. And others are like, well, in today's NIL world, it's not like you're coming back for absolutely nothing. News or not news, Cooper Flagg saying he might be interested in coming back for another year at Duke.
Not news. He's the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He's been the number 1 overall pick in the draft for about 4 years now. So yeah, I don't think there's any chance that Cooper Flagg's coming back. Would he like to? Sure. I'm sure I'd like to come back if I played a couple games as the best player in the country in Cameron Stadium. So I don't blame him for saying that, but I certainly don't think there's any chance he's back at Duke next year.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's free money, I guess. If you want to go back to Duke, you want to take a little bit of money.
But so is going first overall.
Sure, and that's unfortunately where he's going to go. So I don't think this is news. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Especially, let's say they win a championship. I think Duke is one of the few teams that could win this year. Yeah. Could you imagine a better career than that? One and done, championship, and go number 1 overall? Sounds good to me.
Melo almost did.
Anthony Davis, did he do it?
Yeah.
Anthony Davis did it.
What's funny is, too, you have Oklahoma City Thunder right now, who they're one of the best teams in the NBA, number 1 in the West right now, and they have their roster is just nothing but youth up and down. They have so many draft picks that they've accrued over the years, and a lot of them are obviously slotted draft picks, so it doesn't matter where they finish. It's where the teams that they got those trade picks from finish. And they could be high high up in the lottery conversation. They could potentially come away with the Cooper Flagg. Look, a lot of players who are fringe guys of, oh man, he could be taken late first round, early second. I could see those guys saying, hey, I'm going to come back and I'm going to get all the millions of dollars to come back to college and play for one more year and give me a chance to move up the board for the next draft. Cooper Flagg, there's nothing else to prove. There's nothing. No. He's in the middle of his freshman year in college. He's having the time of his life. Of course, right now it feels you're emotionally locked in. Man, I could come back for another year. This is great. But the season ends, your agent's in your ear, your family's in your ear, and you realize, oh, wow, the draft's coming up in a few months, and I can go make even way more than I'm making now. Yeah, I don't think it's news. I think I think a lot of these guys enjoy themselves, but I think he's going to the NBA. He's going to be the number 1 pick, as you guys mentioned. So, nonetheless, I'm not diving into that big news either.